like a little Milky Way bar, or Snickers or something like that, which was a lot better. And then they had C rations. Now C rations was in 2 cans, like can about that high, about that round, and maybe it was rounder. And the one contained the crackers and the cigarettes and anything else. Like they'd give you a pressed fruit bar, yeah, and then the other one was like they had pork and beans, stewed beef stew. That was when you had C rations. That was a good meal compared to K rations. And then when you made an invasion, they gave you a candy bar. Candy bar about that big, about that thick. It would. I'd say it wasn't quite that wide, but it was in 3 sections, and that was 3 meals. That candy bar. It wasn't candy. It was all kind of nutrition stuff compacted into a candy bar. Because when you went to an invasion or a river crossing or something, you didn't know whether you were going to come back or not. So they couldn't bring the supplies up to you. So you ate this stuff, and they usually gave you 3 of them, and you used to put them in your cartridge belt. And that was the 3 meals. But well, like when you was back in a rest area, then you got that was the only time you took a bath. That's the only time you took a change of clothes. That's the only time you had hot meals. And but like you'd go sometimes like months. You'd go months without without a change of clothes. I remember the invasion of southern France, and I'd say probably the 4th day. The 4th day, we met up with the paratroopers, and they must have had brush fires or something there, because our uniforms was all black. We was like colored person, and we came to this town. And there was a watering trough in the middle of the town for the cattle, the cows and that. So we was washing up in there, and I remember there was a peach tree there with peaches on. It was peaches, but we was really black. But I'd say probably every 2-3 months you get a change of clothes. So you slept. Next question.
Did you get any character building duties like KP, mess hall, guard duty, etc.?
I had KP once. Now, the only reason I only had it once is because my name starts with a V, and then by the time they got the V's, you was gone. And I was on it once, one time KP, and I can't remember exactly where I was. But for breakfast, this cook was, and he was breaking eggs for scrambled eggs on a thing, and he'd twist it, and the egg went in, and he'd throw shell in a basket or whatever there was there, and I saw rotten eggs going into there. That turned me. I had fun after that eating scrambled eggs. But I mean, he couldn't do nothing about it. When he broke the egg and he went like that, why, if it was no good, why, it stayed in the pan.
What do you remember about your officers? Is there any special one?
Name in there, but I'd have to look. He was really good to me. Like on Anzio, pulled me up with his rifle and that, but it was, but he got killed. I never had trouble with the officers. Whatever they told me to do, I did. You know, I mean,
What regulations were very frustrating in the service?
it's none. I'll tell you what. Like now you see where they figure they might have to draft people. That's the best thing. I'll tell you what. The Army teaches you a lot of stuff. I probably never was in Johnstown. Furthest away I was from Portage was Wilmore. but it teaches you to be reliant. You know, it really teaches you a lot of stuff, and it'd be good for the young people. You know, but I never had any quarrels with the Army or anything else. The only quarrel I had was when we'd come home from Fort Meade, Maryland. Fort Meade, Maryland, we'd get a train into, and we'd get off at either Altoona or Johnstown. He wouldn't. There was like 20 of us from Portage, and he wouldn't stop at Portage, the conductor. So we'd get off at Johnstown, and like 7 of us would get a cab, and we'd pay like $2 a piece, and then we'd take a cab from Johnstown to Portage. And that train wouldn't stop. But
Who is the most unforgettable character that you ever met in the service, and why?
I'd say probably this guy right there. What's his name? Ditmore? Robert Ditmore. He was one of these guys, you know, if he'd stand up, you know, like if during a shelling or something, if you're going to get hit, you're going to get hit. Well, you don't beg the. Let's see. This Staff Sergeant Fraterola. He was from Connecticut, and I remember. You know why I remember him? We was in Paris. No, we wasn't in Paris. We was somewhere after the war, and he, you know, like after the war, like we had we was in a barracks, like 40 soldiers in a barracks, and you know how many would be there at night? About 3 or 4 of us, writing letters to home and that, you know, and the rest of the guys all had women in town, you know, or something, and it was, and he was one of them, and the thing I remember about him, he got a venereal disease over there, and he was married, you know, and that always stuck me, and he was worried that after he got home, how would he explain that? You know, because it goes in your record, and he was very upset about that.
What were your opinions of the equipment and clothing and rationings of the U.S. military?
The Germans had everything was better. Like their tanks, we had well. Now, if you're talking about towards the end of the war, why we had bigger guns on our tanks, but during the first part of the war, I mean, a 56 pea shooter, and they're shooting at you with an 88. The barrel on the German 88 tank was probably 20 feet long. I mean, when I was in on Anzio, where I got off of guard duty at just at the break of day. I got off of guard duty. We was in a ditch. We was dug in a ditch, and our tanks was supposed to come up and take this town in front of us. Well, I heard our tanks coming up, and then I hear the German tanks, and we're in the middle. All day long they're shooting at us, and there was a house in front, back of us, and it was on fire. Tank was blown up right out beside the house, and all day long it was just you'd hear the shell would explode, and then you hear the gun go off. That's how fast it was, you know, because we was right in the middle of it. Like the Germans were shooting it right across us, and that was very. And we got out of there that night. The Germans were behind us. We got out of there, but I don't know how. But we got out of there.
Best in your military experience?
Germany.
Why?
Why? Because Germany was always cleaner country. France, Italy, on a scale of, it was Germany was the best, and then Italy and France. France was last. France was they're people that don't take care of nothing. You know, they're lovers, I guess. I don't know, but you could tell the difference in the country when you went from France into Germany. There was a big difference, you know, in the countryside and stuff. Now, most of the time, like the villages and that was, okay, this is a town. The town is in the valley, and then on the outskirts of the town is where they farmed, and it was like that almost all the time. And the strange thing was that on the houses, like in France, I know there's some in there. Where will I find it? The barn, like this is a house, okay, and it's long, and this is over the house where they live, and this would be the barn. It's kind of part of the house. And right in front of the house would be the manure pile. You know, in front of the barn. Yeah, but everything was attached to it. There's a picture in here somewhere. But it was a lot of difference when you went to Germany, that's all. The cities were nicer, the countries was nicer, the countryside and everything. Okay, next question.
What did you miss most about the United States?
Everything. When I got out of the Army, I drawed out $20 a week for 52 weeks. And I drawed every one out. I didn't do nothing. Well, we did stuff at home, but it was just a relaxing period. And really, you didn't have when you was in combat and stuff. You never thought of home. I never did. I wrote letters all the time. I wrote faithfully to a lot of people, and I had my brother. I used to write to him. He was in the amphibious engineers. And the strange thing, when I was up to furloughed in London, and I had a picture of his insignia. He was in the amphibious engineers, and so I'm getting a haircut in a barber shop in London, and I saw a soldier with that with the emblem, and so I asked him. I says, "Do you know John Vargo?" And he says, "Yeah." So when he was stationed in England, he was in the invasion of Normandy invasion. So he was in England, and he was stationed up, and he knew a family up in Wales, so he went up there for his furlough. And we was on furlough together, him and me, and he was up in Wales, and I was in London. So we never got to meet.
Did you take part in any? Oh, we already talked about that. can just give 2. How did you and your comrades regard enemy troops as fighters?
They was good fighters, and they never had problems. Well, like when we captured any, we treated them nice, and I mean, it was very mutual. I had men in my squad, someplace, let's see, where was that? It was in France. I think it was in France. Well, anyhow, our machine gun, we came there in the night, and they said, put your machine gun down there, and this was a hill, and down here was our machine gun. And so the morning came. When morning come, why, the Germans was coming through, it was the woods, and they're coming through the woods. They're saying, "Komm raus, you kaput. Come out, you're finished." That's what it was in German. And they're hollering this, and what they were was SS men, and when the Battle of the Bulge was, we had this thing down where we were, and so these Germans were there. So they said for me to go up and see if they should pull back. So I goes up, and I'm telling you, I remember going up that hill. It was snow covered, and I had a white parka on, and the bullets were flying all around me. But I made it up the hill, and well, the infantry pulled back, and so what happened? Our artillery shelled at where the machine gun was, where these Germans was in the woods, and so I'd say probably the next day went down and found the machine gun. They put a potato masher, which was an explosive, underneath and blowed it up. And the 2 men that was at the gun, they captured, and there was 2 men in another hole behind them. And these 2 men stayed in that hole. And when we come down to, I saw the machine gun blowed up, we went to this hole, and the 2 men were in it, and they was shell-shocked. And they was finished. They went back and never saw them again. But it was very strange. And a lot of strange circumstances. Like one place in France there, where, like we had our bedrolls, and we had an older man, and we let him stay with the bedrolls, and cause the Jeep would come and pick him up, in the bedrolls, and here found out later on, he was with the bedrolls, and a shell come in and killed him. So he wasn't in the best place. We thought he was in the best place. Like one time, I think me and I don't know how many men, there were only about 3 or 4 of us. We went up as a forward echelon, and we went up and we went to this objective, and later on the outfit come up, and they got strafed by German airplanes. So I was always in the right place at the right time. It's strange. Okay.
Please describe your baptism of fire and your reaction to that experience.
The first fire I had was on Anzio, on the beachhead of Anzio. And that was really, you have no idea, the Germans are up in this hill, where we landed was all flat land. And then from there you went up, and then there was a big hill, a gradual hill, and the Germans were up there. So they could see everything that was going on, on this beachhead. And you lived in a hole with a cover on it for 4 months. And during the day, you didn't go out of your hole. Yeah, because the German, if you wanted to get up, you could go. Like one time, I was always an airplane nut. Well, I'd have been in the Air Force, but it wasn't for something down in Alabama when we got from basic training, started basic training. They said anybody that wants to join the Air Force, you sign up at late in the day, after. And so I'm standing in this line, and it's a long line, and so I looked at my watch, and it was 10 till 8. Now the PX closes at 8 o'clock. Now it was either the Air Force or the ice cream cone at the PX, and I chose the ice cream cone. And but I never did go in. If I'd have went to the Air Force, I'd have been probably a tail gunner, and I'd been over in crossover in France somewhere. But it was either the ice cream cone or me or the Air Force, and so I said I'm going to have an ice cream cone. Okay.
Hey. Were you or any of your close friends ever wounded in action?
Oh yeah. I mean, I remember the sergeant was over me. We're together, I mean, he's in front of me. All of a sudden, he got hit. But okay, now that's from July 10th to May the 7th, which is, let's see, July, August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April. How many months would that be? Well, I mean,
22?
Yes, 22.
About 22.
But in that time period, that's how many casualties. And there's 15,000 soldiers in a division. So times over. Well, 15,000 into 62 would be roughly a little over 4. In other words, you went into battle. Like one time, I lost the whole squad. That time the machine gun blew it up. They blew up the machine gun. I lost the whole squad. It was just me. Then I'd get replacements, and then later on in the war, this one would get hit or something, and then you got more replacements, and that's what it was.
What impact did the USO have on your military service?
I stayed when I was in London. That was funny. There's this a naval personnel lady in what would they be? A wave, and she's behind me in this in the food line, and she says, "Wasn't the bombing? The Germans would send them V2s over," and says, "Well, wasn't the bombing bad last night?" I didn't hear nothing. I didn't hear nothing. But I stayed in the USO there, and it was nice. And then you had your I'd have breakfast there. I don't know about dinner, and then I'd have supper there. I'd spend the evening there. You had a room and stuff, and that's the only thing I had that concerned me about the USO. That was the only place. Really, it seems to me like when we was getting on the ship to go across the ocean, why there was Red Cross personnel there would pass out something, But outside of that, I mean, you didn't find nothing.
Did you use V-mail?
Yeah, we used Vmail. I wrote home a lot, because, well, I mean, I don't know, I wrote to different people, and I'd write a lot. Like, after the war, me and this fella from, he was from Warren, PA. I remember me and him would be always, you know, the barracks would be like 4 people in it. All the rest are in town, you know, and that. So we'd be writing letters, and I remember that kid from Warren, PA was, I mean, I had a lot of contact with him, you know. I mean, we'd write letters together. And it seemed to me like he had a girlfriend. He wasn't married, he had a girlfriend. He used to write faithfully to her. And I used to write to my sisters and my brother that was in another outfit. And so, I mean, I wrote a lot of V-mail.
Did a lot of it get censored, do you know?
Not really. Not that I know of.
Did you get it from people very often?
Yeah. Everybody wrote to me. I used to write to different people. I probably, I'd say probably 6 or 8 people used to write to me. But like during the war, you didn't get mail. You got mail when you got back to a rest area. That's the only time you got mail. There's a thing in here. Oh, gotcha. They bring it up in big bags, bringing up the mail to the frontline soldiers.
What was your immediate reaction to being discharged?
I was happy. I was happy, and that I didn't get any, that I didn't get hurt or nothing. Why? I mean, when I think about it, boy, the Army sure made out on me. I mean, I never had any dental work. Never had. I got my shots, and I remember. I'm trying to think of where that was. It seemed to me like that was Fort Meade, Maryland. Well, you go into this barracks, and they give you a shot, and then you walked out the back door, and there was a lot of soldiers that got the shot, and they couldn't go out the back door. The tetanus shots, boy, they was really powerful. But all I had was sore arm, you know, for a day or two. I'm missing. And but I never had any trouble in the Army. Never was on sick call or anything else.
Did you participate in any welcoming home celebrations?
Not really. No. Not that I know of. No.
How did the government reward veterans for their service in the war? Do you think that it was enough?
I said I had that $52.20 $20